Hey everyone, I'm Devin Harris. I'm going to be doing my hot topic on Darren Sharper. This is what he looks like. Darren Sharper, a little bit of background. He was born on November 3rd, 1975, which makes him about 39 years old. He grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and he attended college at the College of William and Mary. He was drafted in 1997 by the Green Bay Packers. He had a pretty successful career. He was played for several teams. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time champion. He made the 2000s All-Decade team, and he's 6th all-time on the career interception list. And he retired from the NFL in 2010. After he retired, he started working for several different sports news organizations, and he was originally hired by a smaller one that covered the NFL and do analyst work for that network. He ultimately ended up working for the NFL Network as an analyst from like mid-2012 until his some of his issues off camera surfaced in 2014. So maybe a little over 2 years. Sharper was fired from the network in February 2014 for sexual assault charges that began to come out from all across the country. So here is his initial charges and the follow-up charges that kind of came out in some other states. So, I'll give you guys a sec to read that. Alright, so his initial charges came out here in California. He was originally arrested on January 17th, 2014 for 2 different counts of sexual assault. Sharper during his arrest had 20 zolpidem, which is pretty much the name for Ambien, in his possession. He had drugged 2 women after making them drinks and putting the zolpidem inside their drinks. One of the women woke up during the actual incident, and the other woke up on the couch after the fact. In both cases, Sharper's DNA was found during the rape testing, and the zolpidem was found within the glasses that was used to serve them drinks, and their DNA was also found, obviously, on the glass. After he was charged with this, basically some people in other states started coming forward. In the other states, Sharper was charged with serial raping in Arizona, Las Vegas, and New Orleans. Altogether, he was charged with raping 9 women. However, more women that came out. It was actually a little bit higher number than that, but they obviously couldn't get all the testing kits together because such a long time had passed. At the height of his convictions, he had raped three women in 3 consecutive days. Some things that came out during, basically the cops going through and searching everything was that he always used zolpidem. He actually had a prescription for it, so he could get it real easily. Because of his sleep issues and from his NFL career, it was just a real easy drug for him to use, and he knew the effects of it, so obviously he would use it when he did these acts. All in all, he was charged in California with 2 counts of rape, 2 felony drug charges, and was held on $1 million bond. In California, he was charged with 2 counts of rape and felony drug charges. And then in Las Vegas, sorry about that, that's my daughter yelling, 2 counts of sexual assault. And then in New Orleans, he was 2 counts of aggravated rape. And we'll discuss the kind of the difference of those in a little bit. His trial, some basically things to consider that went on during the trial was consent. Basically, did he have consent prior to these acts to have sex with these women? Was the express or implied consent? So some of these women obviously met him at the bar or whatever, and they came home with him. Were they giving consent by going home with them? Or they, was there any like sexual acts that went on prior to him raping them that would express, they wanted to have intercourse with him or not? Other issues that obviously got brought up during the case was the emotional distress that these women had after the fact, the illegal use of drugs. Granted, he had a prescription for them, but they were being used illegally, and he was, obviously going over the dosage, and he was obviously giving it to these women, and they didn't have any knowledge of it. And then the big one for me that I actually didn't know prior to this was there's a difference between rape and forcible rape. It changes a little bit state to state what the actual meaning is, but the gist of it is basically you have statutory rape or rape can be basically when you're of age and then you're having sex with somebody that's considered underage and under the age of 18. Forcible rape would be, if the people don't give you any type of consent, and then you obviously force yourself upon them. And that, was one of the big ones that came out of his trial, that obviously all the women were of age, none of them gave consent, and it was forcible rape. And then back in New Orleans, it was considered aggravated rape because he actually was physical with some of the women too. So in the end, he was convicted, and these were basically what you guys can see. And I'll go over this too. So basically, Sharper was convicted of multiple counts of rape. However, some of the other counts were dropped. He was sentenced to a total of 9 years, which, originally it was supposed to be they were trying to get him for 20, but they obviously ended up dropping it down to 9 years in prison for his wrongdoings. He's actually in prison in Arizona right now. After his prison sentence, he will remain on probation pretty much for the rest of his life. Some other things that came out of his court case, basically he must wear a GPS locator for the rest of his life, and he can never go with outside of a 50-mile radius of his home without court permission, so he's not allowed to go on family vacations. He can't travel outside the country. He can no longer have a passport. All this stuff, he has to get court permission if he even wants to try to do it. He can never drink alcohol again. Obviously, a lot of his issues stem from him drinking. And then he's also, obviously, which is a given, he cannot do any type of drug again. But obviously it was a prescription, so he had that. It wasn't actually like an illegal drug. And something else that I found, I guess, weird or interesting, I'd never heard of such a thing, but he actually has to have a penile monitor that is attached to him during set hours of the day and night. And basically, when I looked this up, they basically attach him to this monitor. They put different things that arouse him. They find out arousal levels, and basically, at any time during the day when he has this thing attached to him, if his arousal level gets to a certain point, this thing will send signals back to the different agencies who monitor it, and then they will obviously send out police or whoever to go check it out and see what the situation is. And then the last thing is that he can never date anybody on the internet, and he can never look at any type of pornography on the internet. And there were some other smaller things with what he's allowed to watch and what he's not allowed to watch. Well, that's pretty much it. Looking forward to whatever questions you guys have, and hopefully I can answer them. Thanks. Have a good day.